I just feel stripped bare.
If George was gonna die, then I wanted to die with him.
It's a hard decision to make. I had to speak to a mother over a phone that was grieving the loss of a child who still had a tiny bit of hope.
Advances in medical science aren't just about medication, cures and saving lives. They help create hope where there wasn't any, restoring our faith in the adage, never give up.
I don't think we've ever hugged each other that tight or long in our whole lives.
I was holding on to any little bit of hope, but it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
My kids are young. I can't have cognitive decline at this time in my life.
I was sobbing uncontrollably, and I looked up at him and I told him that I felt like I was a man trapped in a woman's body, and he said, "I love you, and whatever we have to do to make this work, we will."
It's that never give up attitude that's at the core of many of these cases, and none more graphic and improbable than the story of George Pickering.
We have a saying in our home, and it started when he was just a young boy. I love you big as the sky. And I love him as big as the sky, and I know he loves me big as the sky.
That's the way it's been for George Pickering and his son George Jr. for 27 years. They lived together, owned a business together, and not so long ago, they nearly died together.
Hey, we need the police stat to the hospital. We have a family member with a gun.
The 911 call from inside this Texas hospital sparked an extraordinary drama that started when young George, who had previously suffered life-threatening seizures, had a stroke, leaving him on life support. Doctors placed his son in a medically induced coma and very quickly after that pronounced him brain dead. George Pickering, what a story, where to begin. What is brain dead?
Well, brain dead, we use a definition that says that basically it's the irreversible loss of all brain function, including the brain stem. So you have two parts to your brain. There's that part that looks after day-to-day living. We think, we argue, we control. And then you have the brain stem that looks after bodily functions, breathing and heart. So we have to be pretty confident that all those functions have stopped and will not start up again.
So when we see in the movies when doctors shine a light into the patient's eye, what are they doing?
They're very much part of it. We have a corneal reflex, so we shine that light, we expect the cornea, our eyes to change. We can pour cold water in the ear and we expect certain responses. Pain, even when you are very unconscious, if I rub your chest very hard with my knuckles, you will respond. So there are very basic reflexes that we can check. If they are absent, then we consider you to be brain dead.
They broke it rather roughly that he was on life support, that they didn't want to keep him on life support.
It's all too much, and this grieving dad leaves the hospital, heads home in despair, and by his own admission, downs a few drinks.
I remember walking in, and as I walk into the living room, we have a cross on the wall there in the house. And I can remember just calling out, "Georgie, Georgie, where's my Georgie?"
In his absence, and after 16 hours, his son was placed in a coma. George's wife, Teresa, accepts the hospital's advice and makes the decision to switch off life support. This is her police interview from that night.
We've been told he's 90% gone, and then he started hemorrhaging. And they could not do anything about the hemorrhaging. And there was nothing that they would do or could do.
Medics had even arrived prepared to harvest George's organs. Nurse Ginger Papadatis tells police she was ready to administer a terminal wean, an injection to ease the end of George's life. She even had the needle at hand.
I was just about to give him the terminal wean medication just to make him comfortable. and not enough to euthanize him, but just take that edge off. I had it in my pocket when his father showed up.
It's now that George makes his desperate move. He pulls out his handgun and points it directly at the nurse.
The whole thing was moving too fast. I mean, it just needed to slow down a little bit. I just knew I had to stop it, okay? And that was the only way I could do it, was the only way I thought I could do it, and was to go there. And I took my gun with me, my .45. I felt like if George was gonna die, that I wanted to die with him.
The standoff between George and police lasts for 3 hours before something truly amazing happens.
I remember telling him, get the F out, okay?
He pointed it at me, and he pointed at George's face. So he's pointing the gun like this. And I'm like, I need to see him with the ventilator, you know, what's going on. And he turns to me and he goes, I'm gonna kill all of you.
When he pointed it,
Yeah,
you know, your face, you legitimately felt that he was capable of carrying out that.
Absolutely. I go in there, and he goes, I want you to tell him I have another gun, and I'm going to shoot everyone in here. I'm going to kill all of you. I heard the click, and that's when I thought I was going to get shot in the back.
The focus was to make sure that everyone on that floor was safe.
The SWAT team is wanting to talk to me. And I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just wanted to be left alone. Just leave me alone with my son. I told him things like, you come through that curtain, I'm gonna blast the hell out of you, and stuff like that, threatening them so that they would leave me alone. Just give me time. By this time, everybody had run away or gotten out of the room. I can remember looking at my ex-wife Teresa running and looking back at her. It just seemed like her hair was in a wind run. It looked like the wind was blowing her hair. That's running with fear, okay? And that's something that I'll never forget in my mind.
I don't like the fact that he threatened me with the gun in my face, that it was loaded.
I was holding George's hand and squeezing his hand and talking to him and all of those things that a father would do in a situation like this. And it felt like George squeezed my hand back. And during that standoff, George squeezed my hand 3 or 4 times over that 3 hours or so. He's given me a sign that he's hearing me.
George Jr. was alive. 3 hours of borrowed time, enough for him to signal to everyone not to give up. This is young George today. It's been a long, tough recovery, but now he's happy and healthy.
You know, when I was in the hospital and during the what they call the comatose time that I was in, I remember seeing shadows of faces, and I remember hearing voices, and I remember responding to them.
He was alive, but his dad didn't know to what extent. You see, shortly after feeling the squeeze of his son's hand, George Sr. was arrested and charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. He spent 190 days behind bars. With him in jail, it would be an agonising wait before he knew his son's condition. George remembers clearly the moment he saw his son for the first time after coming out of the coma.
It was just fabulous. It was the greatest day in life other than the day he was born.
I remember it. I remember it walking around the corner. I don't think we've ever hugged each other that tight or long in our whole lives.
Real special day.
Real special day.
Sadly, this family hasn't truly celebrated their son's return from the brink of death. The siege has caused a split between George Sr., his ex-wife, and other son.
I try to say we're okay, but tonight showed me we definitely are not. I mean, if he will do this on his son's dying bed, I don't know. I really am. Yeah. I'm worried now.
I'm just glad that we're here and able to both walk again. Yeah. Walking together again.
Yeah. That's the blessing.
Today, father and son live together again and hope to put the drama of that day in the past.
I'm gonna start coaching this year with Alex.
But both will never forget the night the desperation of a loving dad saved a life that was all but over.
What I did for George, I'd do 100,000 times again. If it meant saving my son or spending the rest of my life in jail, I would do it.
Desperate situations often call for desperate measures. And that's very much the case with mother of two, Kristy Cruise. At 35, she was told she had multiple sclerosis. She would most likely end up in a wheelchair and it could be terminal. Australian doctors refused to give her a radical breakthrough treatment that could halt her decline. So she decided to take the biggest risk of her life.
Kristy Cruise, MS, it's such a cruel disease. How common is it?
Oh, probably about 1 in every 10,000 people gets multiple sclerosis, so it's not that common, but it can be either relapsing, in other words, you get flare-ups and then get better, flare-ups and get better, or it can be progressive, where things just seem to be getting worse and worse and worse.
3.
It's 1 week before D-Day. Kristy Cruise is heading to Russia in a desperate bid to halt her multiple sclerosis. It's a radical treatment, and she's going to lose all her hair in a heavy-duty dose of chemotherapy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So, rather than wait for it to happen in Moscow, she's decided to have it all cut off here at home on the Gold Coast.
The shave today is to get them used to it, to involve them in the process.
I kind of like the look myself, so we'll enjoy it together. Hats, you always look good in a hat.
It may be her own choice, but for Kristy, this extreme step is recognition that this is her only hope.
Wow, can't stop rubbing it. Okay. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
You are beautiful.
Never thought I would see the day.
Cheers. It's gorgeous, honey. You look gorgeous.
You do.
I just feel stripped bare.
In just a few more days, Kristy will swap the comforts of home in Queensland for this, a grueling round of chemotherapy and stem cell treatment in a Russian hospital. To treat multiple sclerosis in this way is groundbreaking, and the results can be extraordinary.
You have normal. Cough, it's usual.
But Kristy has been forced to come here because in Australia the treatment has been deemed by health bureaucrats as experimental.
Oh, you can do it, you can do it.
It's a wild ride.
Only a couple of years ago, Kristy seemed to have it all. She was a fit and healthy 35-year-old, an emergency department nurse, but it was all about to change.
I was noticing a flash of heat across my back and I was getting really fatigued. So I had a couple of appointments with the neurologist and he said, yeah, this is confirmed, you've got MS.
There was just that shock sickness that she's got MS. Kristy's got MS, and I didn't know what to do.
Come up, we've got to get your shoes. Come on, love. Shouldn't have done that.
I have weak left leg and left arm. I am numb on the left side of my face. Just totally numb. I have the sensation of bugs crawling over my head and my shoulders all the time. There are days when I will get up and get my kids to school and come back to bed and fall asleep immediately and be in the deep coma-like sleep.
Multiple sclerosis is a disease that attacks the central nervous system. When the protective sheath around the nerve fibres in the brain and spinal cord becomes damaged, lesions form on the nerve pathways that tell our body how to walk, talk, and even breathe.
Oh, honey. Come on, love.
There is no cure. For many, it will lead to a life in a wheelchair, and for some, it will be terminal.
Here we go. Vroom.
But for Kristy and her boys Bodie and Shannon, still so little, the most frightening part of MS is the prospect of mental decline.
Have a good day.
I think I could handle anything physical. Put me in a wheelchair. But cognitive decline and memory? My kids are young. 3-year-old. I can't have cognitive decline at this time in my life.
You don't feel nauseous?
Yes, I do.
In Australia, I was told you can't be in a wheelchair. If you get to a wheelchair, you can't have this treatment. You're too disabled.
No, I really do need the chair. No, I really do.
Can you go? You want me to?
But you need to spend the next 2 years or 3 years trialling drugs and hope in that time you don't get sick enough to get in a wheelchair. Because if you do, you're out of luck. It was like playing Russian roulette.
Hey kid, did you know that dragons love tacos? They love beef tacos and chicken tacos.
It's now Kristy's last night at home before leaving for Russia.
I love you, Bodie.
Thank you.
Facing the toughest challenge of her life, saying goodbye to her 2 young sons for the next 6 weeks.
Okay, darling. Mummy needs a big cuddle. Mummy's going to Russia, isn't she?
You're right. Let it out.
He's so cheerful and I'm so devastated.
That's a sign that you're just supposed to be cheerful.
And then it's time to go.
What's wrong?
A long and expensive journey into the unknown, and all on her own.
What's your passport number? Read that out to me.
It will cost close to $100,000.
Jeez, you look like you got Parkinson's.
But watching Kristy shake uncontrollably, perhaps not a moment too soon.
Just go do it one day at a time. You put one foot in front of the other. You do whatever Dr. Fedorenko has on the day for you, and you then do the next day. Give me a big hug.
Okay, last one.
The fear's gone. I don't worry about anything. She's gonna go have treatment and come home. It's not a cure for MS, but it stops it in its tracks. What else can I ask for? I get my wife back. That's a pretty good feeling. Big hugs. See you, babe.
36 long hours later, Kristy arrives in Russia. But not for her, the grand tour. Kristy's entire stay in Moscow will be in a tiny hospital room as she undergoes the radical stem cell treatment she hopes will save her life. Some of Kristy's stem cells have already been taken out to be treated and then frozen. Later, they will be reinfused into her body.
You may feel fatigue, sick.
But first comes the really tough part. 4 days of intensive chemotherapy to kill off the T cells attacking her brain.
My dear, be patient. Now we will start.
Dr. Denis Fedorenko has been using this treatment for multiple sclerosis for nearly a decade and is confident it will work for Kristy.
Starting the last day of chemotherapy.
The chemo, first few days wasn't rough, and then it started to get a bit yucky. You know, nausea and I've lost my appetite. Yeah, Russian food is an acquired taste.
Now, it's important to emphasise the treatment doesn't work for everyone with MS. You need to be young, preferably under the age of 40, and in the early stages of the disease.
It's still a little bit controversial as to whether we know enough yet about stem cells. We certainly don't have long-term data on if I start giving you stem cells for something or other, I don't know how that's going to affect your long-term health. It might be good for the condition I'm treating you for, but I'm not exactly sure what other effects it might be having. So there's a lot to learn about stem cells, but I think it's the real exciting area for the future.
I would like to show you your stem cells. Kristy Cruise stem cells.
That's awesome.
So we have to start.
In Moscow, Kristy's big day has arrived. Now that the chemo has done its work against the bad T cells, her own healthy stem cells will be reinfused.
Here we hold on.
With her immune system suppressed by the chemotherapy, the biggest risk for Kristy at this part of the process is deadly infection.
I'm starting to feel a bit short of breath.
A bit difficulty to breathe, yeah?
Yeah.
Take a deep breath in. You have normal blood pressure. You are okay.
I know, not pain, just heaviness.
It's normal, it's normal. Take a deep breath in. It's normal. Kristy, it will relieve in 2 minutes.
Oh.
You can do it, you can do it.
It's a wild ride.
You have
weight on my
normal
chest.
parameters.
It's hard to watch, but it's over in a few minutes.
We're finished?
Yes. So,
yeah.
My congratulations.
Thank you. I was trying to stay calm, but it was scary. My limbs just feel so heavy. It's weird.
So I hope, based on our experience, Kristy's symptoms will decrease, but usually it takes place in 6 or 12 months after transplantation.
Come on, honey, Mummy's not feeling good now.
This was Kristy before treatment. Her left side was numb. Many days she couldn't walk and was so debilitated by fatigue, she could barely care for her 2 boys. And this is Kristy 6 months after treatment. Exercising 4 or 5 times a week.
And again, stretch.
Her greatest pleasure is just feeling normal.
Reach out that left side a little bit more.
Do you feel like you have multiple sclerosis?
No. No, I really don't. All the things that used to remind me every day that I have MS, they're gone. I have no mobility devices anymore, and it really is like night and day. Sometimes I forget how bad it was because this feels like me again. Yeah, it's fabulous.
Do you want to wait and think about it for 3 years and grow some more of those permanent lesions while you're thinking about it, or are you going to do what I did?
Kristy Cruise is now on a mission.
I was formally diagnosed in February and my first trip to Moscow was in June. I didn't see the benefit of delaying it and occurring more damage that's not repairable. So this is an opportunity.
This young mum wants the world to know how she got from this to this. Able to lead a normal life with husband Keith and their kids at home on Queensland's Gold Coast. Thanks to groundbreaking stem cell and chemotherapy treatment Kristy underwent in Russia.
I'm very grateful that you've trusted me enough to come today from very far afield for some of you. I know we've got people from Perth and Adelaide and Sydney.
Now she's organised this town meeting at her home on the Gold Coast, using her own money to spread the word about the treatment and the Russian doctor she believes saved her life.
My husband got MS, I would ring Dr. Fedorenko immediately. You know, as a nurse, I looked at everything with critical eyes and everything is first rate. As good or better than you'll get in an Australian hospital.
Most of the 100 or so people who've packed this room are either suffering from MS or are here with someone who is. And it seems many of them have already made their decision.
All right, so if we can just ask everyone in the room who's applied for stem cell transplant.
So I want to see my children grow up. I want just to be normal and not have that fear that tomorrow is going to be a day that I might wake up and have to be in a wheelchair.
We've made up our minds we're going. Natalie starts on the 29th of September, so...
I've got MS, had it probably about a year and a half now, and it's been a roller coaster. Obviously, we've got 2 little girls as well. It's like we're all got to take a risk to, hopefully be around to see them grow up, walk them down the aisle, and I guess everything that every parent wants to do.
Your stem cell transplant is going to halt your disease. It cannot repair the lesions that are already on your MRIs. Because the truth is, it's going to stop your progression, but you may retain some of your previous disability.
What most of the people here want is simply the right to make a choice.
I prefer to do that and give it a chance than not do anything. And I know the harsh reality is with MS, it doesn't end well.
Oh, I'm scared, emotional. I just want my husband back. Hopeful, really. You know, hearing Kristy's story gives you hope.
Sometimes a second chance at life can come from the tragedy of others. As the sun set over Athens way back in 2008, 2 families came together. Normally, there's a wall of secrecy between organ donor families and recipients. But this rare face-to-face encounter was the start of a very unusual friendship. Rosemary and Oliver Zammit from Sydney, adrift in a sea of sorrow, gave a young man the gift of life. Inside him beats the heart of their murdered son, Dujon.
I know Rose had this yearning to touch his chest and to feel Dujon's heartbeat inside of him. It was exciting, yeah.
I was scared of how I'd react, and I just wanted to meet this man that Dujon had helped. I believe that Dujon chose you to have his heart.
The lucky man was Kostas Gribolis, an Australian-born journalist from Athens who was at death's door from sudden heart failure. Costa and his future wife Poppy didn't know then how that meeting would affect everyone's lives.
I was happy that I'm living
but at the same time I couldn't express that happiness in front of them because I felt sorry for their loss.
Heart transplants, are they fairly common now? Is it a...
They are becoming more common. There's a huge waiting list for all number of organs, and lots of people are being placed on waiting lists for organs, and unfortunately lots of people are dying while waiting for donated organs. So it's a mind shift we need to get across to people to say, look, after you're gone, maybe your organs can still be used for some good.
20-year-old Dujon Zamet from Sydney had saved for a year for a holiday with his cousin. They were at a nightclub on the island of Mykonos when a bouncer wrongly accused them of stealing a wallet, and he attacked Dujon with a steel baton. Dujon collapsed and was flown to Athens Hospital and placed on life support, while his dad Oliver made an urgent dash from Australia.
I had no choice. I had to fly to be with Dujon. Sorry. It all happened so quick. Rose couldn't make the trip to Greece. She had the 2 boys to stay here for, obviously. So I sort of had to jump in, but I had no idea what I was doing. Didn't know what to expect. I just wanted to say thank you to the Greek people for being so supportive.
The prognosis for Dujon was all bad, but his father proved how one man can make a difference. Grieving but gracious, Oliver fronted the TV cameras outside. It was a big story, and the local networks were broadcasting live.
My wife, Rosemary, Dujon's 2 brothers, Zeke and Laurent, and myself have decided to donate his organs.
So I'm in bed, yes, with all that fear that I've got a few days to live, and there comes Oliver Zamet, Dujon's father.
I understand there is a man waiting for his heart now, and he will be receiving his heart about 12 o'clock tonight, and I'm hoping that will help him and keep him alive.
Costa realised Oliver was talking about him. His reaction to the news caused his vital signs to go off the charts.
All the machines, all the alarms went off.
All the nurses, because Costa was connected to all the machines in the hospital, and then all the nurses were running in.
It's a hard decision to make at that particular time. I had to speak to a mother over a phone that was grieving the loss of a child who still had a tiny bit of hope.
I did. It was like I had to give up all the hope that I did have. I was holding on to any little bit of hope, and that meant that I had to give up all the hope that I had and hand it over to another family. But it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Costa Gribilis was close to death when he finally received the heart transplant he'd been so desperately waiting for. His new heart came from young Australian Dujon Zamet, but that life-saving transplant wasn't the end of the story, it was just the beginning. 2 years later, Costa found a way to show his gratitude. Dujon's killer, the bouncer Arios Antonopoulos, was facing the Greek courts for murder. Oliver and Rosemary needed help. They're of Maltese descent and don't speak a word of Greek. So Costa and Poppy volunteered to be interpreters.
It was the least that I could do to give back, and I had to do it. It's already hard to listen all the details, but it was harder for me to translate to the parents what had happened.
The bouncer got 22 years, but with appeals and the oddities of the Greek justice system, he served only 6 years. By that time, Costa and Poppy had already left Greece. They moved to Sydney and settled into a small apartment. Instead of being half a world away, they were now half an hour's drive away from Oliver and Rosemary, close enough for a very special request.
You were asked to be their best man for their wedding in Australia.
That was quite difficult. I said, Costa, I said, thank you so much, but surely you've got brothers, you've got cousins here, and and he's going, no, I want you, and I'm thinking, oh. And I did say yes. I couldn't say no to him. I really do love him and their families, and I couldn't let him down. But it was hard.
But this amazing friendship born in bereavement was about to become even deeper. With a healthy new heart and their new home, Costa and Poppy broke the news that they were having a baby. And little Konstantina Angelique was born.
Dujon gave life to Konstantina. My daughter gave life to me.
Given Costa's heart problems, they were ultra cautious looking after Konstantina, but she was a picture of health and happiness. Until one day when she was 8.5 months old.
That Saturday she wasn't herself. She was a little bit lethargic, so I thought she was dehydrated and just took her to the hospital so they can put her on a drip. And I recall telling them, give her the drip, give her something she hasn't eaten. Look at her, still not understanding what they were doing. And they just checked her out and noticed that her heart was failing her.
Over the next 2 days, doctors did all they could. But just as Costa's heart failed him quickly, so it was with their baby daughter. Konstantina's tiny heart gave up. It was another defining moment as tragedy unfolded in the intensive care unit, and the Zamets were there with them the whole time, sharing their pain.
For him standing next to me and doing that huge step means a lot for me. And
they didn't leave the hospital, they were there the whole time.
And now we can understand how they're real, the feelings.
You feel like you're watching yourself in their eyes. Like if you look into their eyes, we know exactly how they're feeling because it feels like a reflection of the position that we're in.
Costa and Poppy have found at least some comfort at their local Greek Orthodox church, and they've raised funds for the Children's Hospital. And of course, they all have each other.
No.
It's a true love, friendship. I remember when we told them that Poppy was pregnant to Konstantina, it was the first time that we saw them smile. It was the first time that we saw the tears, but it was tears of happiness. So this relationship I can't imagine that it would end ever.
I hold a special place in my heart for them.
Yeah. But I'm scared to call them family because then people think, oh, because he's got your son's heart, he's family. They just feel like family. They feel like very, very close friends.
The family unit is one of the strongest bonds imaginable. As you've seen, it's often tested by tragedy. But sometimes, family ties are challenged in more unorthodox ways.
What are you making? I think I'm going to try and make a butterfly.
Two young friends hanging out, as teenage girls do. 15-year-old Corey Mason and her neighbour Emma, like friends anywhere in the world. Except in this American suburb, life has not always been so natural or easy.
Corey, take me back to your earliest memories, who you identified as when you were growing up, how you felt inside.
Kind of hard to explain it, but like it wasn't all just, yeah, I'm a girl. It was,
should I be a guy still? And it was just different. It was hard, but it was just mixed everything.
I mean, but at that age, I mean, could you even ask the question about whether you should be a girl? I mean, you were a boy.
Yeah, I did sometimes, and I kind of kept it to myself.
While young Corey was struggling to understand who she was, her mother Erica had her own secret.
I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea why I hated my body so much. I had no idea why I felt so ashamed of my body. Once I hit womanhood, I sort of started trying to play the part and dress as female as I could and present as feminine as I could to see if that would help me feel better about myself. And it never worked. I just felt like I was dressing up.
No way! Oh my gosh! No way! Oh my God!
With the help of hormones, Erica is now Eric. No longer a mother to a son, but a father to a daughter. In fact, a father to 5 daughters. And he's still happily married to husband of 10 years, Les.
I fell in love with the person. The shell, it's just that.
Eric and Corey's path to becoming their true genders started by chance 4 years ago. And at the very same moment, both mother and son watched a TV documentary on a transgender teenager growing up in the United States.
I just, tears, because it was like that light bulb exploded. And I was like, okay, that's the answer. This is me.
The program also showed Corey exactly who she was.
And then I finally realized, I told my mom, I'm just like her. I'm a girl. I started growing out my hair. I started learning how to do makeup, wearing dresses. It was amazing because I didn't know what it felt like until I tried all those things together and I looked in the mirror and I was a girl. Sorry.
And why does that make you emotional?
I don't know, it's just because it's the first time I realized that I was doing something I liked. And I wanted to make my parents proud of who I am, and I thought that they would not like me.
That must have been very frightening.
Sorry.
It's okay. So how did your parents react?
They were very supportive. They would always, make sure that I was happy. Make sure I was safe, too, from the strangers out there that didn't like me, telling me I should go kill myself and telling me that I shouldn't belong on this earth, you don't have a place.
For Corey, there've been many transitions, not just boy to girl, but from an unhappy and misunderstood child to a blossoming teenager.
But the bullying got so bad, I got shoved, spit on, called names. It was hard.
I mean, you've been really open in your campaign against bullying. Why is that?
Because I know how hard it is to come out to your parents, because some parents aren't supportive. Some parents don't know what transgender means. It's not just a guy dressing as a girl. It's mentally, physically, it's who they are. It's what they want to do.
Do you think you're being heard? Do you think you are changing the world?
Yes, I do. I got a lot of positive feedback. People have been messaging me saying how, because of you, I didn't kill myself. Because of you, my parents now know what transgender means and I can be who I am.
She's so much happier now, and she's one to definitely keep her feelings in. So to hear her put them into words is pretty special for me to hear. What do you want to do for the Sweet 16?
I want to rent out a nice place.
Man or woman, Eric is foremost a parent. and so decided, despite her life-changing revelation, to keep her true self secret. So instead, all the focus and support could be on Corey, as she started on puberty blockers and hormones.
You know what that is?
What is it? I was so excited. That was the happiest day of my life.
Is gender reassignment surgery, how advanced is that now?
Well, I think there's a lot of steps leading up to that. We know we're pretty good with a knife. We can change things anatomically, but it's also about giving these people time to realise that's what they want to do. So if you're a young child and decide between you and mum and dad at 5, 8, 10 years of age, what we'd like to do first of all is give you time to grow up a little bit and decide whether that's exactly what you want to do. So we have to delay puberty. We have to give you drugs to stop you developing breasts if you're a girl, or secondary sex characteristics, the hair and the whole bit, to give you time to think about what you want to do.
It makes me feel complete. I can go out in the public and they'd be like, hey, that's a girl. They don't even know that I'm transgender. So what's for dinner?
Probably steak.
Coming later in life, Eric's transition has been an even more confronting journey. First, he had to tell Les, convinced and frightened that their marriage would be over.
We were watching a movie. It's about a transgender woman who in the end ends up dying, and I was sobbing uncontrollably. And he just hugged me, and I'm sorry. And I looked up at him, and I told him that I felt like I was a man trapped in a woman's body. And he said, I love you. And whatever we have to do to make this work, we will.
I fell in love with the person. You've seen the pictures. She was beautiful as a woman, but equally beautiful inside. So long as, at the end, Eric is happy with the appearance, Eric will be happy with what's in her brain, or his brain, I'm sorry. Well, it's difficult to put it into words.
Eric is now putting into action what he's always wanted, turning to surgery to help him become a man, preparing to have both breasts removed, but not yet willing to have genital surgery.
My biggest area of dysphoria is my chest, because I guess that's what the world sees. You know, the world can't see inside my pants.
How does it affect your sex life?
It doesn't.
No. I mean, if the technology was more advanced and, there was bottom surgery, then that would affect our sex life. In all honesty, because I'm the one who's, the straight, heterosexual guy. But we'd still be together. How society views me, my relationship, I don't care. They don't live in my house. Us and our children. We're the only ones that matter to me.
What was it about yourself that you liked the least?
Everything. Everything from my long hair to my chest. Everything.
What about being pregnant?
I hated it. I hated being pregnant.
Even so, Eric Mason is grateful that he's a parent to 5 children, including Corey, this family's only boy, who at 15 wants to be a girl.
When she first told you, what was your reaction?
I was excited. I was happy for her because I knew there was more people out there like me. And to know that my mom was one of them, it made me so happy. I wanted to cry for her.
Corey is currently taking female hormones and hopes to complete the boy-to-girl transition with genital surgery when she's considered old enough at 18. Like his daughter, for the past year, Eric has also been on hormones, bringing on a second puberty, much like a teenage boy. The next step to manhood is having his breasts removed, an operation which has been 6 months in the planning, but years in the making.
When I was younger, I used to wish for cancer, so I would have to get a mastectomy.
I'm glad that, it's finally happening. I've been hearing this since shortly after we got married. I hate this. I just wish that wish I could just chop this off.
As you watch your mum go through this transition, is there any sense of loss that you're losing your mum?
Yes and no. I mean, I'm still gonna call her mom until she wants me to call her dad. I'm gonna miss her, like, doing my hair and stuff and helping me do my makeup and, get ready with dresses and, like, go to balls and dances. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Just the other night, Willow, the 6-year-old, I think her brain started finally understanding, and she says, wait a minute, if you're gonna be a boy, shouldn't we call you Dad? And I said, you should call me whatever you want to call me. I'm okay with it. I gave birth to you. I've always been your mother. If you want to call me Mom, that's fine. If you want to call me Dad, that's fine. It's just a word.
How many more games they have?
Better be cold.
Sound good? I worry that I'll go through some sort of grieving process after the surgery.
Dawn breaks on a brave new world for the Mason family. Eric and Corey are on their way to Chicago, where Eric will have his surgery. The significance of this farewell seems to affect them all.
Take care of Mom.
And these marking points are really reference points for me to use during surgery.
Dr. Lawrence Shecker, with 20 years' experience, is a pioneer in transgender surgery. He will perform a double mastectomy on Eric, a 4-hour procedure that will also involve reshaping and contouring the chest to look like a man's.
Assistant Ray will place that on stretch. Ray, why don't you get a little closer? Maybe there you go. Okay. And I'll take a mark. I would say the satisfaction rate is very high with these procedures. Obviously, people have waited a lifetime to have this done, and it's about allowing them to feel comfortable with who they know themselves to be and be comfortable in their bodies.
You look in the mirror, Who do you see?
I see myself finally.
And who is that?
That is a man.
As drastic as a double mastectomy is for Eric, there was no choice for him. This was the only way to finally say goodbye to Erica, to be who he truly is.
What do you think would have happened to you if you didn't take this path?
I think I would have continued to be depressed and unhappy and angry at the world and never knowing why. The only regret I have is not being educated sooner about what transgenderism was. So I couldn't do it sooner, but that's okay because I have 5 beautiful children. I have an amazing husband and an amazing life. So my life's pretty good now. It's awesome.